Imagine waking up one morning to find that the money you've been holding onto, the very notes tucked away in a safe or a forgotten drawer, have suddenly transformed. They haven't just earned a little interest. They have undergone a financial metamorphosis, multiplying in value so dramatically that your entire life, your future, your financial security is irrevocably altered in the most positive way imaginable. This isn't a scene from a Hollywood film or a distant fantasy. For countless individuals who have followed the Iraqi dinar for years, this is the potent, almost mythical dream that has sustained them through years of waiting. And today, that dream feels closer to reality than it ever has before. The announcement from Baghdad that the 2026 national budget is being explicitly designed to launch with a new, revalued dinar rate is not just another piece of news in the endless cycle of rumors. This is different. This is a concrete, official confirmation that places a definitive timeline and a governmental framework around what was once pure speculation. It signals a fundamental shift from theoretical economic debate to active, state-sponsored implementation. For the first time, we are not analyzing the if or the why, but we are officially discussing the when and the how. The 2026 budget is now the vessel, the chosen vehicle, for this monumental change. Think about the profound implication of that single fact. A national budget is the most serious, legally binding document a country produces each year. It allocates billions, dictates the pace of infrastructure projects, funds the military, and determines the social welfare of millions of citizens. By tethering the launch of the new exchange rate directly to the enactment of the 2026 budget, the Iraqi government is making a statement of absolute finality. They are staking their political and economic credibility on this event. They are weaving the new dinar's value directly into the financial fabric of the nation's future, making it the cornerstone of every ministry's plan, every governorate's project, and every citizen's expectation for the next fiscal year. This is a level of commitment we have never witnessed before. So, why is 2026 the chosen date? Why not this year or next? The answer lies in a meticulous, multi-year master plan that Iraq has been quietly executing, and we are now witnessing the final stages. This isn't a random decision pulled from thin air. It is the logical culmination of a series of complex, interlocking processes that are finally converging. The first and most critical of these is the death of the dollar. I'm not talking about the US dollar collapsing globally. I'm referring to the systematic eradication of the dollar's dominance within Iraq's own internal economy. For decades, the dollar was the shadow currency of Iraq, a necessity for large transactions and a symbol of economic instability. But the recent, aggressive crackdown by the Iraqi government, backed by the US Federal Reserve itself, on dollar smuggling and illicit auctions has one primary strategic goal: to force the Iraqi dinar to stand on its own 2 feet. They are creating a closed, controlled financial environment where the dinar is not just a currency in name, but the only currency in practice. This painful but necessary purge of the black market and the tightening of dollar access is the essential precondition for a successful revaluation. You cannot introduce a strong, valuable currency into a system where a foreign currency is the de facto standard for value. Iraq is surgically removing that competitor from its internal ecosystem, creating a vacuum that only a newly empowered dinar can fill. This is the financial equivalent of preparing the soil before planting a precious seed. The soil is being weeded, fertilized, and made ready. The 2026 budget is the scheduled season for planting. This is a deliberate, calculated countdown, and every new regulation from the Central Bank of Iraq, every raid on a currency exchange, is another tick of the clock. This meticulous preparation extends far beyond the internal currency markets and strikes at the very heart of Iraq's potential for global economic integration, which is the second pillar supporting this 2026 timeline. For years, the single greatest barrier to Iraq's full participation in the global financial system was its status with the World Bank's International Development Association. Iraq was, for a long time, a heavily indebted, credit risk nation, trapped in a cycle of borrowing and restructuring that prevented any serious foreign investment. But that chapter is closing. The long-anticipated graduation from the ID, a move that has been in the works for years, is now imminent. This isn't just a bureaucratic milestone. It is a seismic shift in Iraq's international credit rating and perceived stability. Graduation means Iraq is no longer seen as a charity case or a high-risk debtor, but as a viable, creditworthy partner capable of servicing its debts and engaging in serious financial contracts. It opens the floodgates to international capital markets on terms that are favorable to Iraq. It allows for the issuance of sovereign bonds that global institutions will actually compete to buy. It signals to every major corporation and investment fund in the world that Iraq is officially open for business. But to truly attract that investment, to convince that cold-eyed, analytical capital to flow into Baghdad and Erbil rather than Dubai or Singapore, Iraq needs to offer one thing above all else: stability. And nothing, absolutely nothing, symbolizes economic stability more powerfully than a strong, stable, and internationally recognized national currency. A revalued dinar is the final, gleaming piece of the puzzle. It is the trophy that will be displayed on the global stage to prove that the nation's decades of conflict and chaos are truly over. Think of it from the perspective of a German engineering firm or a South Korean technology giant considering a multi-billion-dollar investment in Iraq's infrastructure. Their number one concern isn't the potential for profit, it's the safety of their initial capital. A volatile, weak currency is a nightmare for them. It introduces an uncontrollable risk that can wipe out their projected earnings overnight through devaluation or inflation. By launching a new, strong dinar rate, Iraq is surgically removing that primary objection. It is providing the foundational stability that makes all other investments seem logical and secure. This is why the 2026 budget is the perfect vehicle. The budget itself is a blueprint for national development, outlining massive projects in oil, gas, transportation, and reconstruction. Attaching the new dinar to this blueprint is a declaration that these projects will be funded and executed with a currency that matches their ambition. It's a statement that Iraq will not be building its future with a currency of the past. This synergy between the budget and the currency is a masterstroke of economic signaling. It tells the world that the era of rebuilding with donated dollars and borrowed euros is over. The new Iraq will be built with its own powerful currency, a symbol of its reclaimed sovereignty and economic independence. This isn't just about making dinar holders wealthy, it's about making the entire nation wealthy, secure, and self-reliant. The revaluation is the key that unlocks the vast, untapped potential of the Iraqi economy itself, an economy that has been artificially suppressed by a wartime exchange rate for over 2 decades. We are witnessing the careful, deliberate construction of a new economic reality, where every policy, from the central bank's monetary controls to the parliament's budgetary allocations, is aligning towards a single, historic moment of national economic rebirth. The countdown is no longer based on hope, it's based on the logical, sequential completion of these foundational prerequisites. The dollar is being cornered, international financial legitimacy is being achieved, and the legal framework for a new era is being written into the 2026 budget document. This is a process with a clear and undeniable momentum, moving with the deliberate speed of a nation that knows it has one chance to get this right, one chance to shed the skin of its past and step onto the world stage as a formidable economic power in its own right. So, we arrive at the final and most critical question that every viewer is asking right now. What does this all mean for the world, for the global economic order, and most importantly, for you? The launch of a new dinar rate is not an isolated event in a distant country. It is a stone dropped into the pond of the global economy, and the ripples will be felt far and wide. Firstly, it will instantly transform Iraq from a struggling oil-dependent state into a formidable economic powerhouse with immense purchasing power. Imagine a nation, already sitting on some of the world's largest oil reserves, suddenly having its currency value increase by magnitudes. Its ability to pay off international debts becomes trivial, its capacity to fund its own reconstruction without begging for foreign loans becomes a reality, and its influence in regional politics and economics skyrockets overnight. This revaluation is the ultimate tool of sovereignty, finally cutting the strings that have allowed external forces to pull the levers of the Iraqi economy for decades. It is a declaration of financial independence that will redraw the balance of power in the Middle East. But the impact goes even deeper, striking at the very foundation of the global petrodollar system. For half a century, the global oil trade has been denominated in US dollars, creating a constant, artificial demand for the currency that forms the bedrock of American economic influence. A strong, internationally recognized Iraqi dinar, backed by the tangible asset of oil, presents a viable alternative. It opens the door, for the first time in a serious way, for Iraq to sell its oil in its own currency. If other oil-producing nations in the region follow suit, the entire architecture of global finance begins to shift. This is not about the collapse of the US dollar, but about the rise of a multipolar currency world where national currencies like the dinar can compete on the global stage. This is the grand chessboard upon which this move is being made, and Iraq is positioning itself not as a pawn, but as a key player. For the individual investor, the speculator, the person who has held onto the dinar through years of uncertainty, this represents the culmination of a journey of immense patience. This is the moment where belief and strategy are poised to meet opportunity. The confirmation of the 2026 budget as the launch vehicle is the single most important piece of information we have ever received. It transforms the dinar from a speculative asset into a time-bound, event-driven opportunity. The path is now clear. The remaining time between now and 2026 will be filled with the final pieces falling into place. The official graduation from the IDA, the final suppression of the black market dollar trade, the public awareness campaigns from the Central Bank of Iraq preparing its citizens for the change, and the meticulous drafting of the budget law itself with the new exchange rate embedded within it. Each of these events will be a confirming signal, a beacon reinforcing the inevitability of this outcome. The waiting is no longer a passive act. It is an active vigil, watching a historical transformation unfold in real time according to a publicly stated schedule. This is the final leg of a marathon, and the finish line is now visibly marked on the calendar. The story of the Iraqi dinar is no longer a mystery. It is a timeline. It is no longer a question of if, but a definitive matter of when. The pieces have been set, the players have taken their positions, and the clock is ticking down to 2026. This is the moment to solidify your understanding, to ensure your position is secure, and to prepare for a shift that will be discussed for generations to come. The greatest risk now is not in having believed, but in failing to see the overwhelming evidence that is laid out before us. This is history in the making, and you have a front row seat. And that is exactly why you need to stay connected to this story with me. This journey is far from over, and the coming months will be critical. If you found this deep dive valuable, if it connected the dots and gave you a clear picture of the road to 2026, then you cannot afford to be in the dark. I am committed to tracking every single development, every statement from the central bank, every update on the budget, and every shift in the geopolitical landscape that affects this historic event. I will be your analyst, your translator of complex news, and your guide right up to the finish line. So, do not let this moment pass you by. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because we will be dissecting every new piece of information as it breaks. This is more than just a news story, it is a financial evolution, and together we will navigate it, understand it, and be ready for it. Subscribe now, and let's continue this conversation in the next video.